The USS Vanguard slowly drifted through the edge of Sector Zeta 9, its engines humming quietly as the crew monitored the star maps. The sector was little explored, filled with nebulae that distorted sensors and stars that seemed too far apart to matter. Yet the ship's instruments had picked up something unusual, energy readings that did not match any known celestial patterns. Dr. Elaine Core, the chief scientist, leaned over the console, her eyes scanning the numbers with excitement and concern. The energy signature was strong, irregular, and seemed to be concentrated on a distant planet, later identified as Xylaris 15, a Class 15 Deathworld that had never been visited by humans before. Captain Eric Vale paced the bridge slowly, running his hand along the railing as he considered the risks. He had commanded many missions, but a Class 15 world was another level entirely. Such planets were notoriously deadly, with harsh climates, aggressive predators, and environments that could kill in minutes. Yet the promise of rare resources, potentially valuable technology remnants, and the chance to claim a strategic location before alien factions made it irresistible. The galaxy was vast, but opportunities like this were rare, and humans had a reputation for taking risks. The scouting team assembled in the ready bay, their faces a mix of excitement and anxiety. Tatran Mara Selin checked her gear, adjusting the suit's environmental filters and ensuring that every sensor on her pack was functioning correctly. The environment of Xylaris 15 would test them in ways they could not predict. Acidic storms, gravity anomalies, and unpredictable fauna awaited them. But the Terrans were determined. Their mission was not just exploration. It was a claim, a bold statement that humanity would stake a mark in the galaxy before anyone else could. As the USS Vanguard approached orbit, the planet came into view, a swirl of dark red clouds covering jagged mountains and cratered plains. Lightning danced across the skies, illuminating the surface in brief flashes. Each glimpse of the terrain reminded the crew that survival would not be easy. The sensors detected atmospheric toxicity, unstable tectonics, and high radiation levels. But there were also pockets of energy that hinted at resources, elements unknown to human science, rare minerals, and perhaps even biological matter that could hold secrets of evolution on a death world. Dr. Core began planning the scouting routes, focusing on landing zones near natural formations that could provide some shelter. She instructed the team to avoid open plains and to approach Mount Keltar, a region that appeared to have the most stable terrain despite its proximity to active volcanic vents. Every decision mattered. One wrong step could cost lives, but careful preparation and advanced equipment gave them a chance. Communication back to Earth was limited due to the sector's dense nebula, forcing the Terrans to rely on their own judgment. Captain Vale reminded the crew of the stakes, emphasizing that no other human colony could know of their mission until they were safely established. The galaxy was full of rival factions, and any leak could lead to conflict over a planet that would become a human stronghold if they succeeded. The team understood the weight of their task. The first dropship left the USS Vanguard, descending slowly through the turbulent atmosphere. Its sensors struggled against the interference from Xylaris 15's magnetic storms. The crew inside felt the tension rise with every second. The surface grew closer, revealing jagged cliffs, craters emitting plumes of gas, and strange creatures darting between rocks. Even from orbit, the planet seemed alive, hostile, and alert to their presence. Landing was rough but successful, with the dropship's stabilizers straining against sudden gusts. The Terrans stepped out into the alien landscape, their boots sinking slightly into a mixture of ash and rock. The air was toxic, even with their suits filtering it, and the sky was a constant roiling red. Yet despite the dangers, the team felt a thrill. The moment when humans first set foot on a world that no other species had claimed. The first scans revealed flora with unusual adaptations, some glowing faintly, some moving with a predatory awareness. Even as the team marveled, Dr. Core reminded them of the real purpose: survival, observation, and ultimately, staking a claim for humanity. Every step on Xylaris 15 was a battle against the environment, a test of courage, technology, and human determination. The discovery of the planet, with all its deadly allure, marked the beginning of a story that would change humanity's place in the galaxy. The scouting team advanced cautiously across the ash-covered plains of Xylaris 15, their suits absorbing some of the harsh environmental effects. Yet every step was a reminder that the planet was alive and dangerous. Acidic rain began to fall in sheets, sizzling as it hit the protective outer layers of their suits. Mara Selin adjusted her visor to filter out the corrosive droplets, while Dr. Elaine Kaur monitored the chemical composition with a portable analyzer. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the jagged cliffs and cratered terrain in brief flashes. Each moment brought new hazards, but also signs of life that had adapted in extraordinary ways to the planet's deadly conditions. Near the base of Mount Kael'thar, the team encountered their first predators, Skara's raptors, swift and cunning creatures with armored hides that deflected the team's scanning pulses. They moved in packs, blending perfectly with the rocky terrain, and their eyes reflected the red light of the storm above. Captain Eric Vale ordered a halt, signaling the team to observe without provoking the animals. Every member felt the tension, knowing that even a small mistake could be fatal. The raptors seemed to assess the humans as potential threats, but curiosity kept them at a distance. The team's portable sensors detected geothermal vents releasing toxic gases, forming swirling clouds that could suffocate a human in minutes without a suit. The vents created localized storms, making navigation difficult. The Terrans had to plan their movements carefully, using temporary cover behind jagged rocks and cliffs. Dr. Kaur was fascinated, taking detailed notes on the vent's chemical output and the way native flora seemed to thrive near the heat. Even in this hostile environment, life had found a way. A reminder of nature's resilience and the extreme adaptability of Xylaris 15. A sudden tremor shook the ground, sending loose rocks tumbling down a nearby slope. Dr. Selin reacted instantly, throwing a stabilization rope to prevent a colleague from sliding into a shallow crater. The team realized that even the terrain itself was an enemy, unpredictable and violent. As they moved deeper into the foothills, they discovered pools of liquid that shimmered with unusual colors. Dr. Kaur theorized that they were mineral-rich, possibly containing elements unknown to human science. Captain Vale made a note to map the area carefully for future resource extraction, but survival remained the priority. The environmental challenges tested their endurance. Acidic rain, sudden wind gusts, and the constant threat of predators forced the Terrans to work as a single unit. Every decision had to be quick and precise. The dropship they had arrived in served as a temporary safe zone, but even returning to it required careful planning through narrow canyons and steep ridges. The crew relied on Orion, the ship's AI, for guidance, scanning for hidden dangers and marking safe paths for movement. Its calculations saved them from multiple near-fatal encounters, proving the importance of combining human skill with advanced technology. At one point, they observed a small group of native creatures feeding near a geothermal vent. Their anatomy was unlike anything seen before. Limbs designed to navigate molten rock, reflective skins to resist heat, and sensory organs that seemed to detect chemical signals in the air. Dr. Kaur was captivated, documenting sketches and sensor readings, noting that understanding these adaptations could help humans survive in similar extreme environments elsewhere. Even Captain Vale allowed a rare moment of awe, recognizing that the planet, while deadly, was also a testament to life's creativity. As night fell on Xylaris 15, the red sky darkened further and the temperature dropped sharply. The team activated their portable shelters, which provided protection against both predators and the harsh atmosphere. Dr. Kaur continued her observations by the light of portable analyzers, recording data that would be crucial for later colonization. Dr. Selin maintained perimeter security, aware that predators could strike at any moment. The first night on the planet was a test of endurance, requiring both vigilance and adaptation. By dawn, the team had mapped several potential safe zones, noting natural formations that could be reinforced for human habitation. Captain Vale reviewed the scans and made tactical decisions for their next moves. The crew knew that Xylaris 15 was more than a challenge. It was an opportunity to learn, survive, and ultimately claim a hidden corner of the galaxy. Every obstacle they overcame reinforced their resolve. Each member of the team felt the weight of human ambition balanced with the fragility of life on a Class 15 Deathworld. Even as they prepared to move onward, the Terrans could not ignore the beauty within the danger. Glowing flora that illuminated the red night, the rhythmic movement of the Scar's raptors in the distance, and the swirling clouds of the volatile atmosphere. Every sight was a reminder that Xylaris 15 was alive, unpredictable, and uniquely human's next frontier. Their first day on the planet had proven that survival was possible, but only through cooperation, observation, and respect for the planet's deadly complexity. Sudden tremors shook the ground beneath the Terrans as they navigated the rocky slopes of Mount Kelthar. Small rocks and dust cascaded down, making footing dangerous. Lilt Mara Selen steadied herself and signaled the team to halt. Captain Eric Vale assessed the situation, realizing that Xylaris 15's terrain was as deadly as its creatures. The dropship they had landed in was too far to offer immediate safety, forcing the team to rely on quick thinking and their survival training. A massive plume of toxic gas erupted from a nearby vent without warning, spreading across the slope like a wave. The team activated their environmental filters and moved laterally, searching for higher ground. The gas was heavier than expected, rolling over rocks and into shallow depressions. Dr. Elaine Core monitored the sensors anxiously, recording the chemical composition, realizing that even a short exposure could have serious consequences. The planet seemed to anticipate their every movement, reacting unpredictably to their presence. As they skirted the vent, the team noticed movement in the shadows. Scarus raptors, larger than those seen before, with spiked tails and reinforced hides, stalked them silently, blending perfectly with the jagged rock. Captain Vale commanded the team to stay calm and move slowly. Their scanners barely picked up the predators through the swirling gas and magnetic interference. One misstep could trigger an attack. Every nerve in the Terrans' bodies was on edge, every breath measured carefully. An aftershock struck, sending a crew member, Ensign Rylan, tumbling toward a crevice. Mara Selen reacted instantly, throwing a tether rope to pull him to safety. The team felt the combined pressure of the planet itself and the creatures that inhabited it. Xylaris 15 was teaching them quickly that caution alone was not enough. Adaptation and teamwork were essential. Even Dr. Core, usually focused on observation, participated in stabilizing the crew and guiding movements through the shifting terrain. After regaining their footing, they discovered a series of shallow pools of liquid with unusual luminescence. The pools emitted a faint warmth, suggesting geothermal activity below. Dr. Core carefully collected samples, noting that these could contain rare elements or microbial life adapted to extreme conditions. Captain Vale marked the area for potential study and future supply points, but emphasized that survival remained the priority. Even collecting data required constant vigilance, as the planet seemed to test their endurance at every step. As they progressed further up the slope, an earthquake rattled the rocks violently, forcing the Terrans to cling to jagged outcroppings. Debris fell in every direction, narrowly missing the crew. The team realized that Xylaris 15's geological activity was as threatening as its fauna. They had to move deliberately, using every bit of training and every piece of equipment. The dropship's AI, Orion, projected a safe route based on sensor data, but the constantly changing environment demanded on-the-spot decisions. The raptors reappeared at dusk, moving with silent precision along the ridges. They seemed to study the humans with intelligence, occasionally darting closer and then retreating. Captain Vale ordered the team to remain in tight formation, their movements synchronized to avoid drawing attention. Every observation added to the understanding of how life had adapted to such extreme conditions. Each encounter, though dangerous, provided valuable information for survival strategies and future colonization efforts. Night brought a chilling drop in temperature, forcing the Terrans to deploy portable shelters near a rocky overhang. Acid rain began to fall again, sizzling on their suits and the surrounding rocks. Mara Selen kept watch while Dr. Core continued analyzing the collected samples. The harsh environment tested not only their physical endurance, but their mental resilience. Each member understood that the planet would not allow mistakes, and that every decision could be a matter of life or death. By the early hours, the team mapped several safe corridors that could be used for retreat or exploration. Captain Vale reviewed the routes, planning their next moves with care. The combination of natural hazards, aggressive fauna, and geological instability made Xylaris 15 one of the most dangerous planets any human had set foot on. Yet the data collected promised that survival and success were possible with vigilance, discipline, and teamwork. As dawn approached, the Terrans took a brief moment to observe the hostile beauty around them. Glowing pools reflected the red skies. Raptors moved silently across ridges, and the steaming vents painted an ever-changing landscape. The first full day of encountering Xylaris 15 had proven the planet's lethal unpredictability. But it had also shown the crew that with careful planning, coordination, and courage, humans could endure even the deadliest challenges. Each trial faced brought them closer to understanding the planet and securing a foothold for humanity. Back on the USS Vanguard, the crew gathered around the main planning console, analyzing the data collected from Xylaris 15. Dr. Elaine Core displayed the scanned maps, highlighting regions with potential resources, geothermal vents, and relatively stable terrain. Captain Eric Vale studied the projections carefully, knowing that every choice now could determine the success of their mission. The planet had already proven its hostility, but careful planning could turn danger into advantage. The team discussed landing zones for future exploration and potential colonization, focusing on areas like the foothills near Mount Kelthar and the plateau surrounding Lake Verne. Both regions offered natural protection from the harshest storms and provided access to mineral-rich sites. Dr. Core emphasized that understanding the environment was key to survival. Every scan and chemical analysis informed the best spots for temporary shelters and automated outposts, while avoiding areas prone to volcanic activity or predator concentrations. Captain Vale reminded the team that secrecy was crucial. Xylaris 15's strategic location in Sector Zeta 9 could attract attention from rival galactic factions, especially from Sector Vortax 12, where Commander Zarak Thal's fleet had been known to monitor unclaimed planets. Any leak of human activity could spark a confrontation, potentially deadly for the scouting team. Vale instructed that all communications be encrypted and delayed to mask the exact location of the planet. The crew accepted the gravity of their responsibility, understanding that failure could mean both loss of life and loss of opportunity. Advanced drones named Aegis and Sentinel were prepared for deployment, programmed to survey and map the planet discreetly. They would monitor predator movement, atmospheric changes, and resource locations while leaving minimal trace of human presence. Dr. Core highlighted the importance of automated sensors to gather continuous data without exposing the crew to unnecessary risk. Every detail mattered. The team could not rely solely on human endurance in such a dangerous world. Technology had to extend their capabilities. The discussion turned to terraforming possibilities. Using Genesis pods to stabilize small habitable zones, Captain Vale explained that these devices could modify temperature, filter air, and neutralize toxic chemicals locally, allowing future humans to survive outside their suits for short periods. Dr. Core was already calculating which areas would benefit most, balancing geological stability with resource availability. The crew realized that every decision on placement and timing of these pods could mean the difference between survival and disaster. Tensions ran high as the team simulated possible encounters with native fauna. The raptors and other unknown creatures observed in previous scouting would likely challenge human presence. Lelcher Mara Selin proposed tactics for avoiding confrontations while maintaining surveillance. The Terrans needed to move carefully. Avoiding drawing attention while still claiming critical regions, Captain Vale approved the plans, emphasizing that patience and stealth were as important as courage and skill. The USS Vanguard's AI, Orion, helped create predictive models of Xylaris 15's environmental hazards, including storm patterns, volcanic activity, and shifts in predator territories. This allowed the team to schedule scouting runs during safer windows, minimizing risk while maximizing data collection. Dr. Core and the engineers worked to integrate the AI's projections with their manual observations. Each piece of data reinforced the understanding that Xylaris 15 was not just a planet to explore. It was a test of human ingenuity and strategic thinking. Vale issued orders to begin the deployment of initial automated outposts under strict stealth protocols. The drones would operate silently, gathering information for months without human interference. The team prepared contingency plans in case the alien faction from Sector Vortex 12 detected any anomalies. Every mission had to account for survival, secrecy, and long-term sustainability. The crew understood that claiming Xylaris 15 was not simply about setting foot on the surface, it was about establishing a hidden foothold for humanity. The planning session extended late into the ship's cycle, with each crew member contributing observations and calculations. Even small details, like positioning for natural shelter or predicting predator behavior, could influence their success. Captain Vale reminded the team that their work now was the foundation for future expeditions and colonization. Xylaris 15 was unforgiving, but preparation, strategy, and coordination could turn its deadly challenges into manageable obstacles. By the end of the session, the Terrans had a clear operational plan, including scouting routes, automated outpost deployment, and emergency retreat paths. Dr. Core compiled her notes, the AI updated environmental models, and Vale finalized command orders. The crew knew that the next steps would be dangerous, but they also understood that their careful planning gave humanity the best chance to claim the Class 15 Deathworld before any rival could even discover its existence. The Terrans prepared for the first stage of claiming Xylaris 15, loading drones and equipment into the dropships aboard the USS Vanguard. Captain Eric Vale gave final instructions, emphasizing stealth and precision. The mission was not just exploration anymore. It was the beginning of establishing humanity's presence on one of the deadliest planets in the galaxy. Every crew member understood that a single mistake could alert rival alien factions, particularly Commander Zyrak Thal from Sector Vortex 12, and compromise the mission. The dropships descended through the turbulent atmosphere, buffeted by high winds and acidic rain. Sensors on Aegis and Sentinel drones struggled against interference from magnetic storms, but the crew monitored every movement carefully. Each drop was calculated to land near Lake Verne and Crater Hexus, regions identified as resource-rich yet relatively safe. The planet's dangerous terrain required careful navigation, and every route had been pre-planned using maps from Dr. Elaine Core and Orion, the ship's AI. Once on the surface, the drones were deployed first, silently moving across the landscape to gather continuous data. They monitored predator activity, mapped hazards, and identified zones suitable for terraforming. Dr. Core examined mineral deposits and geothermal vents, noting areas where Genesis pods could stabilize microenvironments. These pods were small but powerful, capable of adjusting temperature, filtering air, and neutralizing toxic chemicals locally, allowing humans to survive and operate in the deadly conditions of Xylaris 15. Leap Mara Selen and her team moved carefully through jagged rocks and crater edges, avoiding direct contact with Scara's raptors that stalked the outskirts. Each member wore environmental suits with reinforced shields, protecting them from acidic precipitation and high radiation areas. Captain Vale coordinated from a safe distance, monitoring drone feeds and making real-time decisions to adapt to unexpected dangers. The team worked silently, aware that secrecy was as important as survival. The drones discovered unusual formations near a geothermal vent, and Dr. Core theorized that the heat and minerals could support temporary habitats. Using remote controls, the crew positioned Genesis pods around these formations. Activating the devices caused small zones of breathable air and stable temperature to appear. The first signs of human habitation on Xylaris 15 were established, subtle yet definite, and undetectable from orbit by alien surveillance. Predators occasionally approached the activated zones. Curious about the sudden changes, Mara Selen coordinated defensive scans and monitoring systems to ensure no attacks occurred. The team learned quickly how to integrate technology with environmental awareness. Understanding predator behavior became critical for protecting the early outposts. The human presence was still fragile, but with careful planning and observation, it was beginning to take root. As the dropships moved to other locations, Captain Vale instructed the team to mark resource-rich areas with sensor beacons. These small devices were disguised to appear as natural formations, allowing the team to track mineral and water availability for future colonists. Dr. Core continued collecting samples, analyzing the chemical composition of rocks, soils, and liquids. Each sample added to the growing database that would guide long-term colonization and survival strategies. By the end of the first full deployment day, multiple microhabitats had been established, each powered by a Genesis pod. The drones transmitted continuous environmental readings back to the USS Vanguard, allowing the crew to monitor changes and react to threats. Captain Vale reviewed all data with Dr. Core, planning the next steps in the claim process. The Terrans understood that claiming the planet was more than planting flags. It was creating hidden footholds, carefully controlled zones that ensured human safety while remaining undetected. Night fell over Xylaris 15, and the small habitats glowed faintly against the red-tinged sky. Mara Selin and her team took turns guarding the zones while Dr. Core recorded final readings. The Raptors circled at a distance, wary of the new presence, and the geothermal vents continued to hiss and spout toxic gases. Yet within the Genesis pod zones, the humans had carved out islands of safety, their first tangible victory against the planet's deadly environment. The successful deployment marked a turning point, proving that humans could survive, manipulate, and even thrive in a Class 15 Deathworld. Captain Vale emphasized that patience and careful observation would be the key to expanding these footholds. The Terrans had begun claiming Xylaris 15 in secret, establishing the first hidden outposts and microhabitats, and setting the stage for a larger human presence that could remain undetected by rival alien factions. Every cautious step, every calculated move brought humanity closer to securing the planet before the galaxy even knew it existed. The Terrans worked tirelessly to maintain secrecy on Xylaris 15, knowing that any detectable sign could alert rival alien factions. Captain Eric Vale emphasized strict protocols for communications, ensuring that all transmissions to the USS Vanguard were delayed, encrypted, and routed through false coordinates. Dr. Elaine Core monitored environmental data continuously, while Lelter Mara Selin oversaw perimeter security around the Genesis pod microhabitats. Every detail mattered, because even a small mistake could reveal humanity's presence to Commander Zirak Thal and his fleet in Sector Vortex 12. Automated drones, Aegis and Sentinel, patrolled the surrounding terrain, scanning for predators and environmental hazards. They transmitted real-time data to the USS Vanguard, allowing the crew to track conditions and detect anomalies without exposing humans to danger. The planet's magnetic storms and volatile atmosphere made navigation difficult, but the AI, Orion, calculated safe corridors and adjusted patrol routes dynamically, ensuring the humans could monitor the planet while remaining invisible to any alien observers. Despite these precautions, subtle signs of alien interest began appearing. Sensor readings indicated unidentified spacecraft moving near the sector, likely reconnaissance units from Commander Zirak Thal's fleet. The Terrans remained calm, implementing camouflage measures and misdirection protocols. Energy signatures from the Genesis pods were minimized, and drones were programmed to mimic natural geological readings. Every action was calculated to deceive potential spies while still gathering crucial data for future colonization. On the surface, the team reinforced the microhabitats, using additional shielding to block radiation and predator intrusion. Selin coordinated defensive maneuvers and early warning systems, ensuring the Raptors and other native predators could not interfere with the outposts. Dr. Core continued testing environmental filters and monitoring chemical stability in nearby pools and vents. The crew worked in synchronized shifts, balancing exploration, research, and security to maintain operational efficiency. The Terrans discovered new challenges as nights grew colder and storms intensified. Sensors detected sudden acid rain and localized electrical discharges from the planet's atmosphere. The Genesis pod's protective systems were tested repeatedly, proving their ability to maintain habitable zones even under extreme conditions. Captain Vale conducted risk assessments constantly, adjusting patrol routes and schedules to avoid predictable patterns. Maintaining secrecy was as much about avoiding attention as it was about surviving the environment. Occasionally, Raptors appeared near the edge of the habitable zones, studying the humans silently. The crew observed their behavior carefully, learning movement patterns, hunting strategies, and territory boundaries. Mara Selin noted that understanding predator psychology was critical to maintaining safety. Even minor interactions could escalate if the team reacted hastily. Their patience and observation allowed them to avoid conflict, transforming a deadly encounter into an opportunity for learning. The AI, Orion, projected environmental changes, predicting storm paths, geothermal activity, and predator movements. The Terrans used this data to schedule scouting and resource gathering missions during safer windows. Dr. Core mapped mineral-rich areas for potential extraction and plotted zones where additional Genesis pods could be deployed. The careful integration of technology and human strategy gave the crew a distinct advantage over the unpredictable planet and any external observers. As the days passed, the Terrans perfected methods to keep the Genesis pod zones concealed. Using natural rock formations, chemical camouflage, and energy dampeners, the habitats blended into the landscape. Even orbital scans from distant enemy ships would detect nothing unusual. Captain Vale emphasized that stealth was not temporary. It was a permanent necessity until full human presence could be established. The crew understood that secrecy was their shield as much as the Genesis pods and protective suits. Small teams of Terrans ventured farther, mapping additional safe zones and deploying secondary drones. Each mission required extreme caution, as environmental hazards and native predators could strike without warning. Dr. Core documented new plant and microbial species, noting adaptations that could assist human survival. The combination of observation, stealth, and adaptive strategies allowed the humans to expand their hidden network of footholds without revealing their presence to the galaxy. By the end of the first full cycle of operations, Xylaris 15 had multiple concealed microhabitats, interconnected by invisible monitoring networks. The Terrans had successfully avoided detection by alien reconnaissance while continuing to claim strategic points for future expansion. Every day reinforced the importance of vigilance, coordination, and careful planning. Humanity's presence on the Deathworld was becoming a hidden reality, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and the careful balance between exploration and survival. Small groups of Terrans prepared to enter Xylaris 15 under carefully controlled conditions. Boarding ships like the USS Pioneer and USS Sentinel, they carried essential supplies, additional Genesis pods, and portable shelters. Captain Eric Vale reminded the crews that every move had to be stealthy. Each deployment was meticulously planned to avoid detection by alien factions, particularly Commander Zyrak Thal's fleet from Sector Vortax 12. While the surface was deadly, the Terrans had learned to use technology, strategy, and observation to turn danger into opportunity. As the dropships descended through the turbulent red skies, sensors picked up geothermal activity and predator movement. The automated drones Aegis and Sentinel scouted ahead, marking safe paths and identifying zones suitable for temporary habitation. Lilter Myroselin led the first ground team, carefully monitoring environmental hazards. Acidic precipitation, high radiation pockets, and sudden gusts of wind required constant adjustment to movement and positioning. Dr. Elaine Core focused on analyzing the mineral-rich soil, pools of glowing liquid, and unusual flora that might support human survival. The Terrans deployed new Genesis pods near crystal plains, creating small breathable zones with stable temperatures. The pods filtered toxic air and neutralized localized hazards, allowing the team to remove helmets briefly and work outside their suits for essential construction and data collection. Predators occasionally approached the perimeters, but defensive sensors and careful observation kept them at bay. Every step reinforced the lesson that understanding the environment was as important as technology for survival. The team moved cautiously between zones, marking potential future bases with sensor beacons disguised as natural formations. Dr. Core collected soil and water samples to test nutrient content and chemical stability. Each finding added to the growing knowledge base that would guide larger colonization efforts. Captain Vale coordinated the placement of pods and shelters, ensuring that even small clusters of humans could remain undetected while maintaining operational efficiency. The first night on the expanded footholds was tense. The Genesis pod zones glowed faintly against the dark red skies. Myroselin patrolled the perimeter while observing predator activity. The raptors and other native creatures moved silently at the edges, testing boundaries but not engaging. Dr. Core continued her studies, analyzing environmental readings, documenting unusual microbial life, and noting adaptations that might help humans survive in extreme conditions. The team realized that knowledge and observation could be as powerful as weapons or shields. Over several days, the Terrans expanded their network of microhabitats. Each deployment reinforced the idea that survival depended on patience, coordination, and the careful use of technology. The drones maintained continuous surveillance, feeding real-time data back to the USS Vanguard, allowing the crew to monitor environmental changes and predator movement without exposing humans to unnecessary risk. Every new site increased the hidden presence of humanity on Xylaris 15. Interactions with the native predators provided critical lessons. The raptors and other species displayed intelligence, curiosity, and territorial behavior. Maracellin recorded their patterns, noting safe pathways and timing for movement. The team learned when to move quickly, when to stay hidden, and how to use terrain to their advantage. Each encounter tested nerves and planning, but ultimately strengthened human strategy on the planet. The Terrans also began constructing temporary shelters using natural rock formations and portable materials. They reinforced microhabitats against environmental hazards, combining structural stability with camouflage. Captain Vale emphasized that these early shelters were the foundation for future human expansion. The team worked in shifts, balancing research, observation, security, and expansion. Understanding the planet and its inhabitants became as important as claiming territory. By the end of the first cycle of full colonization efforts, several hidden footholds were established across crystal plains and the foothills of Mount Kael'thar. Each zone provided breathable air, stable temperatures, and safe observation points. The Terrans had begun creating a self-sustaining network of outposts, all while remaining undetected by alien fleets. Every measured step reinforced human resilience, intelligence, and adaptability. The success of these initial colonization efforts proved that Xylaris 15, while deadly, could be gradually tamed through careful planning, observation, and the integration of technology with human ingenuity. Captain Vale reviewed the operation with the crew, noting lessons learned and adjustments for future expansion. Humanity's hidden presence was no longer temporary. It had begun to take root, establishing the first secret strongholds on a Class 15 Deathworld. A foundation was laid for future generations to survive and thrive on the planet, unseen by the rest of the galaxy. Years passed on Xylaris 15, and the Terrans' hidden footholds had grown into a small but fully functional network of microhabitats. Each Genesis pod zone provided breathable air, stable temperatures, and protection from predators and environmental hazards. The drones Aegis and Sentinel maintained continuous surveillance, feeding real-time data to the USS Vanguard, ensuring the crew could monitor the planet's ever-changing conditions while remaining completely undetected. Captain Eric Vale oversaw every operation, coordinating expansions, research, and security measures. The Terrans had learned to live in harmony with the deadly environment. Understanding predator behavior, environmental cycles, and geological instability allowed humans to navigate the planet safely. Maracellin continued training new teams, teaching them observation skills, stealth techniques, and emergency protocols. While Dr. Elaine Core expanded her research, discovering microbial life and mineral resources that could support long-term survival and even provide scientific breakthroughs for humanity. Despite the harsh conditions, life on the planet had stabilized for the humans. Small groups moved between microhabitats, collecting samples, deploying new drones, and reinforcing shelters. The Genesis pods allowed them to work outside their suits for longer periods, making infrastructure expansion more practical. Every task was carefully planned to maintain secrecy, as the Terrans knew that alien factions from Sector Vortex 12 could detect unusual activity if protocols were not followed precisely. New predator encounters continued, but the humans had learned to anticipate them. Raptors and other native creatures became part of the Terrans. Observational data, teaching timing, movement, and avoidance strategies. Maracellin ensured that every interaction was documented. Each encounter improved safety and informed future expansion plans. Understanding the planet's inhabitants was as crucial as surviving its storms and volcanic activity. Resource management had become sophisticated. Sensor beacons marked mineral-rich zones, water sources, and geothermal vents. Dr. Core analyzed samples daily, determining which areas could support longer-term human activity. The Genesis pods were repositioned strategically to maintain balance between safety, access to resources, and minimal environmental disruption. Every decision was part of a long-term strategy to establish humanity without alerting the galaxy. Communication remained tightly controlled. The USS Vanguard acted as a hub, relaying encrypted and delayed messages back to Earth. Avoiding direct transmissions from the planet itself prevented detection. Captain Vale emphasized that secrecy was not temporary, it was permanent, until humans had fully secured their presence. Every crew member understood that the survival and expansion of humanity on Xylaris 15 depended on careful observation, patience, and discipline. Over time, small structures began to emerge around the Genesis pod zones, reinforced shelters and observation posts. Each construction was designed to be discreet, blending with natural formations to avoid detection from orbital scans or distant alien sensors. The Terrans had created a network of living spaces that were functional, safe, and completely hidden. While the planet remained dangerous, it had become manageable through the combination of human ingenuity, advanced technology, and careful planning. The Terrans began experimenting with longer-term habitation, testing crops in controlled soil samples, monitoring microbial life, and establishing secure storage for minerals and water. Every advancement was slow and deliberate, as mistakes could attract attention or endanger lives. Yet the success of these projects proved that Xylaris 15, despite its deadly reputation, could support a permanent human presence. The crew had transformed a hostile Deathworld into a hidden bastion of humanity, unseen by rivals. Years of careful expansion solidified the Terran's secret claim. The planet became a symbol of human resilience, intelligence, and the ability to thrive in extreme conditions. Captain Vale and Dr. Core documented every lesson learned. Every step from first landing to establishing fully functioning habitats demonstrated the importance of preparation, observation, and cautious innovation. Humanity's presence was now secure, ready to serve as a foundation for future generations. Xylaris 15 remained largely unknown to the rest of the galaxy. Its deadly environment and hidden human footholds were a closely guarded secret. Yet for the Terrans, it represented achievement, survival, and opportunity. They had claimed the planet before anyone else knew it existed, and in doing so, had proven that with courage, strategy, and determination, humans could survive, adapt, and thrive, even on the deadliest worlds. The hidden legacy of humanity on Xylaris 15 had begun, and its story would quietly shape the future of human expansion in the galaxy.